Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. What's happening in the world? Today is September 27th. My name is Reagan, and here are your past week's headlines. Let's start with the basics. Fully vaccinated individuals can travel to the U.S. now internationally. Denmark beat COVID, and the R1 variant that was first originated in Japan is in all 47 states now. It passes through antibodies of the vaccinated. Officially, COVID has now killed more Americans as the 1918-1919 flu. In gun violence, 8 people were killed by gunmen in the University of Russia. And there was also a mass shooting at a Kroger in Memphis, Tennessee. No, I don't care about Gabby and her psycho boyfriend. Just another silly girl trying to be an influencer. There's enough of them. There's already enough of them. Instead, can we talk about the Haitians being whipped on the Texas border? That's savage.
Let me correct the statements in your question, if I may. It was on Friday. No, if I may. It was on Friday when I was, actually it was on Monday. And the image in the photograph that we all saw and that horrified the nation raised serious questions about let me finish.
So there was a busy week of meetings concluding the UN General Assembly. It first started with Boris Fuckhead meeting with the United Nations Secretary General on Monday, where he was told now or never. Antonio Guterres making it clear that the alarm bells were ringing. All the world leaders flew to the U.S. and met with Biden in a roundtable of nations on Monday, aka the horsemen of the apocalypse. Then on Tuesday, Biden addressed the UN General Assembly held in New York. Biden was all like, meh, something, I'm asleep, I'm still asleep. But really the side meetings are where it's at, like when Bezos met Boris Johnson. What does he have to do with meeting Boris Johnson? What was that about? Then the highlight of the UN General Assembly to me was the UN Secretary General sending a scathing review of inequality worldwide, both financially due to COVID distribution, billionaires flying to space during a pandemic, and climate change, essentially telling everyone to wake up and get their act together. Boris gave a message himself saying it's time for humanity to grow up on climate change, referencing Kermit the Frog and Going Green. The French are still upset with the US for not being able to get permission to build nuclear submarines, because that's the highlight of our agenda rather than, end homelessness or solve inequality. At least China decided not to fire up their coal plants in their Belt and Road Initiative. Xi Jinping sent a pre-recorded message to the United Nations General Assembly stating as such. Then following this, they sent 24 fighter jets towards Taiwan last week in a show of force. This was all followed up by the end of the week with a summit from the Quad and how they're going to deal with China. If you want to go back and see each of the individual countries to the United Nations General Assembly, you can view all of that on YouTube. I'm not going to go through it. To review each one would take a 10-hour upload, and I'm not going through all that. Surprise! Elon Musk and Grimes are now semi-separated. The two will continue to co-parent their son XAE X13 because these two psychos have their little conquests, and Grimes doesn't even like her child calling her mom just Claire because it's a cyborg baby. I prefer the pronoun she or her. Yes, queen. Lucky for us, 7 late-night hosts focus their shows specifically on climate change, inviting Bill Gates and others to come talk. During Climate Week, New York City, a summit to promote climate change solutions. Moving on, even Jeff Bezos commits $1 billion to conservation as Amazon continues to destroy the world. The former Amazon CEO said his recent trip to space further inspired him to protect the planet. Because for psychopaths, they have to literally leave the planet, look down at it, and realize that that's their house, that's their home, and we should probably take care of it. Unfortunately, teens and children in particular are being murdered nationwide, probably due to the prisons releasing people, the courts being closed, and gun sales up during 2020. Also, maybe because we live in a sick and twisted society. I just want to know if I'm the #1 trending thing next to tater tots yet. Uber is now worth less than DoorDash, but who cares? They're both evil. The World Food Program is $1 billion short, and there are 16 million people with acute hunger and 5 million people in famine in Yemen. In addition, conditions in the Tigray region, Kenya and Nairobi, are in a blackout. No phone service, no internet, no transport, no food, fuel, or medical supplies can enter. This is a region of about 6 million people that are suffering right now in Africa. In fact, in more than 20 districts, people are starving to death, and again, no international aid can get in. Fun fact, more than half of the people that live in the US live in wildfire-prone areas are people of color. An announcement followed this week that the US government plans to fade out hydrofluorocarbons, but not quick enough. And in fact, air quality alerts are on in Central California, but meanwhile, I'm in a perfect 30 where I live. I actually saw the stars Friday night. China kicked off their Mid-Autumn Festival for harvest season, something they've been doing for the past 3,000 years. Fracking in Texas is causing more and more earthquakes. Afghanistan is getting humanitarian aid finally. And some statistics provided by the American Addiction Centers in a survey of 3,400 millennials and Gen Zers about their recent drinking habits and lifestyle choices, over 2/3 said they found heavy drinking culture to be boring. 60% in Maryland said they'd rather spend an hour of their day in the gym than in the bar, and just under half replied they're more excited to feel post-workout buzz over feeling tipsy. For real, drinking is boring. You go to the bar, you spend a shitload of money, you mumble to some strangers. It gets pretty old. Tom Hanks, why'd you sell out? Why'd you sell out? Yet another post-apocalyptic robot movie with Tom Hanks. Jeez, they've already made this movie. It's called Chappie, and it's freaking great. Go watch it. Everyone knows that China's Evergrande defaulted on $300 billion. There's empty, unfinished buildings all across China. It's pretty much their equivalent of the Lehman Brothers. Oh, the Lehman Brothers was more like $600 billion. Because you know, in America,
we go big or go home.
Speaking of going home, the House approves a $1 billion funding for Israel's Iron Dome defense system. This upset AOC, where she shed some crocodile tears. In Berlin, climate activists allied to Swedish teen campaigner Greta Thunberg were on Friday. They demonstrated in some 70 countries to demand global action ahead of the key COP26 meeting. Greta's angry, and Greta says that Biden isn't doing near enough to uphold his commitments to this, and in fact his Build Back Greener plan is just a big hoax. We know this. On to weather. More than 95% of the West is in a drought this week, a proportion that has hovered at or above 90% since June, with 6 states entirely in drought conditions, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor. On the Colorado River, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, 2 of the country's largest reservoirs, are draining at alarming rates, threatening the West's water supply and hydropower generation in the coming years. I suspect that we will see mass blackouts by 2025. The volcanic eruption in Spain's La Palmas island near Morocco caught international buzz as thousands of residents are fleeing. One of Australia's biggest earthquakes, a Category 6, occurred, damaging Melbourne and more than half of Australia's population. 25 million people felt it. Flash floods in several towns in Spain, and Gavin Newsom decides to throw $15 billion more at firefighting efforts as 9,000 firefighters there are battling 10 major wildfires.
Today's megafires, fueled by climate change, are burning hotter than these giants can withstand on their own.
What more evidence do you need of a world that's heating up? Our kids are going to inherit a world with 8-degree higher temperatures than they have today.
Okay folks, that's been your September 27th speed run update from your friendly neighborhood Doomer Wizard. Again, thank you for the new subscribers, and we have 2 new patrons, which keeps public journalism funded. I like to take the news from an international perspective because at this point in our lineage, we need to be looking at ourselves as a planetary species if we want to survive this. It's not this country or that country, but all countries, and we must put aside our differences, our racism, and certainly not be whipping people on the borders. Will we ever grow up? Time is running short. Thanks again. Press the like, share, and I'll catch up with you again on October 4th for What's Happening in the World. Ciao.